The Prime Minister saying Russia's brazen provocations are a threat to security and peace in the world. And he went on to announce a number of sanctions. If you're just joining us now, this is Power in Politics, and I am Vashi Kapelos. I want to go over some of those sanctions with you before bringing in my colleague Murray Brewster, who will help us analyze the announcement you just heard. First of all, the Prime Minister says that Canada will ban Canadians from all financial dealings with the so-called independent states of Luhansk and Donetsk. Those are the two states that President Putin labeled independent yesterday, and that's what prompted a lot of this response from both the U.S. and Canada. The second sanction is for members of the Russian parliament who voted for the illegal decision to recognize these so-called republics. The Prime Minister went on to say that Canada will ban Canadians from engaging in purchases of Russian sovereign debt and will apply additional sanctions on 2 state-backed Russian banks and prevent any financial dealings with them. The final part of the announcement today also significant. The Prime Minister says he's authorizing the deployment of up to 460 members of the Canadian Armed Forces to Operation Reassurance. As I mentioned, my colleague Murray Brewster has been listening in to this press conference. Murray, I'll bring you in now. Thanks so much for sticking by us. From your vantage point, how significant of a suite of sanctions is this?
The sanctions pretty much mirror what our allies have been doing in terms of who they're targeting. Banks, the money people who are trying to finance the war. What was interesting, though, was the reference that the Foreign Affairs Minister, Melanie Joly, made to the Russian Sovereign Fund. Now, that is significant because, as she said, they are, at some point or another, Russia is going to have to try and refinance this war, and they're going to have to go to their sovereign fund to be able to do this. What's interesting is that sanctions have been ramping up on Russia for a number of years, as we know, starting back in 2014 with the annexation of Crimea. And last year, the United States increased sanctions because it accused Russia of interference in the U.S. presidential election. Russian sovereign fund began dumping U.S. dollars and getting reorienting its cash flow towards the Chinese currency. So
I guess we'll be left hanging, wondering what Murray's point is. I don't think, control room, do we not have, oh, he's back, I think. Murray, just as you were about to say, my point is, we lost the answer completely. So please repeat.
Can you hear me now, Vash?
I can hear you now. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, yes. So my point, the question is, how much of an economic impact is this going to have? Because Russia has already been taking measures to insulate itself against either current sanctions or future sanctions. And that wasn't a question that was answered today.
Yeah, I appreciate you underscoring that, because I thought, just jumping off that, our colleague Tom Perry sort of asked something similar, which is taking us up a bit from a 50-foot view, which I think is important, right? Like, if Russia has already taken into account the probability of sanctions and is still acting in the fashion it is, how much of a deterrent are they actually going to be? Like, what's the game plan?
Yes, yeah, and the fact that there is a graduated response is something that was also interesting. Just prior to the announcements, I was saying to you, this is one of the things that I was looking for, because Canada and its allies are under pressure, particularly from the Ukrainian government, to just do everything now. Just hit Russia with everything you have now, because it's not going to be deterred by sanctions, and ratcheting them up slowly is not going to produce the results that they want to see. That's the argument of the Ukrainian government.
So do we have any idea? Because I also heard that from Minister Freeland and Minister Joly. This is a first step. Minister Freeland says the next set will, quote unquote, bite. How do you interpret that? Like, what is next?
Well, more sanctions. One of the things that was absent from the U.S. arsenal today was the removal of Russia from the SWIFT banking system. So and that has been termed as the nuclear option. And so there are other sanctions that Canada can individually impose, because it has been, the last time Canada imposed sanctions on Russia, it was 2019. And there are a number of sanctions that our allies, such as the United States and the European Union, have imposed that Canada has not. One of the things I was looking for today was whether or not the Russian military contractor, the Wagner Group, which is notorious and is reportedly playing a big part in the shadow war that's taking place in Ukraine right now, there was no sanctions aimed at them. So there is room for Canada to take more steps, but it will be interesting to see precisely the areas that they do target. And there are some groups in this country, for example, the Ukrainian Canadian Congress, that have been hammering on the federal government to take measures to sanction groups that are paramilitary, such as the Wagner Group. So there's some more room to maneuver, but it really remains to be seen, Vashi.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.